All right, so just to provide an update on today's work, I'm trying to take advantage of the time that I have available during the holidays to get as far as I can, where later maybe my time will be more limited. But once I've done a few things today, and I think it I wanted to explain some of the changes because they are more they're stronger changes than most times, and I just want to make sure that um, the rationale for making these changes is understood. Um, so if we go back, if we find this, I'm gonna be working out of this line right here. This like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, my eighth line of icons. This is one that received a lot of transformations. And we look at the ones from before. So the current Breeze icons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll notice that we have a few icons currently in Breeze that are um, they're very they're okay. They can use some updates, and they have ideas on. It gave me ideas on how to standardize some of these things. Some of these icons, for example, we hotly debated this icon not too long ago, and I yet again suggested a change with the new icon, and I think you'll see why. Some of the concerns that I've always had with this icon is that it's too detailed for the amount of information and at the size that you want to work with, and this is refers back to some of the earlier thoughts that I have about Breeze in general having too many bits and particles of graphics scattered throughout the icon container. And while that can convey maybe more meaning or more accurate meaning, it also leads to kind of a high density particulated kind of graphic that maybe it's not the best for easy recognition. You have to think that users will be in general something like a 15 to 20 inches away from the screen, and at that level the some of the shapes may not be easily made out, and they may not convey strong meaning. And we're not looking, we don't want users to be glued to their screen to try to understand how their icon looks. And I get the vibe from some of our current icons that maybe they need an update in that regard. But this is one that you will see that I changed. Then this one right here, this is commonly used, and as you can see, it's actually stretched from side to side all the way in the container. So there is no room left, right for the icon to breathe. And I don't think that's generally a good practice because this icon may bump into other graphics and may not have room inside its container to avoid colliding with other graphics. So I made some changes here as well. And then I noticed these upcoming icons right here. These ones with the page, they are basically related in the sense that they're part of the edit collection. But if you notice, they have a shape that is it sort of cascades from top to bottom, left to right. And we already actually in the Breeze icon, we already have another convention where our pages or documents are stacked but the opposite way. And so for example here, and so I thought, hey, why do we want to flip these orientations? There is not a strong desire, I don't think, for keeping them all like breaking away from that connection. And it also leads to sort of like a more fragmented, non-standard look in your icon designing. And so I thought, hey, it's more common to see them from top to bottom, cascading behind the document rather than in front of the document. So I'm going to flip these ones a little bit and try to reuse what I have already made so they look more consistent, and you'll see what happened there. Um, there are a few icons here that are widely used throughout most of the UI. This one's received just a tad of a change, particularly the download icon. I think I standardized it a little bit more just to make sure that it works properly, and it's more recognizable. Sometimes, these jointed shapes like these ones, they may not always be understood, and so I'm trying to make sure that they feel connected as well. Anyway, so then there was this collection here about face recognition. Um, and I wanted to make sure that, for example, in this area, we're using the user icon and we're calling it a face recognition icon. And when I think about it a little bit deeper, I can tell that the face recognition is concentrated at the top of this icon um, rather than sort of in the body. So it feels like having the kind of like a half body representation in the icon may not be quite as direct in communicating to the user that this icon is about faces. And so I made some changes there, and you will see them as well. Then the other ones, I just sort of styled a tad different, but they're basically the same. So without further ado, this is kind of what in this. I'm sorry for all these like random shapes here. It's just that I use them all the time, and this document is large, and so I don't always have the chance to, work closely with the shape. But for example, this one, for this icon, I reused the shape I had up here, and I added the icon that the other bit that was provided. For the earthquake icon, I provided basically the same shape, but I used a more jagged, more chaotic type of pulsation on the screen, because the previous one was a bit more constrained, and I don't know if it provided the actual meaning of, this is chaos, this is an earthquake style icon. The bomb icon stayed pretty much the same, but then, like I said, the dustpan icon, that one I changed a little bit, and I gave it another spin from top, angling it from the top right to the top left, because that seems to be a trend in most of the icons that we have with Breeze. And so and it also provides that idea of, you're sweeping something, and I think the meaning is probably conveyed. I looked around for inspiration for this icon, and I found a few, and this one seemed to be sort of the closest one that, kind of embodied all of this work. Then as I mentioned before, the clear icons, I gave them spacings, and I standardized their size so that they feel a little bit chunkier, a little bit more concentrated. And for the copy icons, I used the little bit for that represents the link, because that's the name of the icon. It's clone unlink and clone and edit a clone. And then this one is edit copy path. And one thing I wasn't getting from the previous icon in Breeze, now it's very common to see two squares sort of stacked one on top of each other to represent the copy icon, right? But with the copy path icon that we currently have, I was not getting that sense of the ability to copy what we had. And so I went ahead and just gave it a little bit of a style change, and it seems to sort of convey that idea more closely to me. Again, all of this is up for debate, but it seems quite okay. I still have to work on some of the shapes though. This is a little too large of a shape, but it should be okay. Then the scissors icons, I restyled it to be more succinct. The other one had a lot of detail, I guess, that 1 pixel lines allow for, but at the same time, it had some edges that at 1 pixel that are probably not the best when you want to have a more pixel perfect kind of icon. And so I went ahead and restyled it, and I think it comes across a little bit more clear to me. Then the another thing with the, for example, with the trash icon was it had its handle disconnected, and maybe that's a stylistic choice. But one thing I was feeling is that I was not getting that connection that this is a lid rather than a handle separated from a separator line like the black line right here. Um, so I decided that it made sense to put them together and then put the sort of the bucket representation at the bottom. The download icon, like I mentioned before, I standardized a little bit, and I kept the main idea of the shape. Um, the search icon sort of just got styled more in a standard way rather than any changes, and then some of the other icons received the same treatment, reusing bits from other parts of the design. For the face recognition, I took the main shape that was present in all the icons, and instead I drew a face. I think it made it to me to be more recognizable. Maybe there is some styling I need to change here, but overall this is the main idea. If you're working with faces and you want to add a face, show me an icon that represents a face. So that's the main change here. And then the other ones are just reworkings and restylings of the same idea, but again, they just tend to be a little bit more standardized, and they're more pixel perfect, as you can tell. For example, if you click on this, you'll see that there is no half points. It's just a flat 12 by 18 height, and that generally leads to a sharper sharper image with the SVG. Anyway, that's just a little bit of an update today, and hope you enjoy.